Hi, this is Dr. Gretchen Lewis-Snyder. I'm here with Dr. Karla Berkeley. We're with Blossom Whole Family Therapy and Child Psychology Center. Karla and I are going to talk today about stress. We originally did this presentation with our community partner, Mount Olivet Lutheran Church in Plymouth, in January of 2017 with our colleague, Dr. Paige Nelson. We have made a condensed version to post here on the web. So as we get to thinking about stress, one of the things behind stress are those good old family vacations. You remember the ones where dad's trying to make good time and, you've got to go to the bathroom. Everybody's hungry. We're tired. We're cranky, but, we got to press on, got to get there. Everybody can kind of relate to that, right? It's like stress is just in our lives. There's no way around it. It just is what it is, and it's part of life. This clip from the cruise is quite funny. We can't, just the way that technology works, we can't actually play it in this recording, but if you wish to have a good chuckle about it, you can go onto YouTube and pull it up. The Crudes road trip. It's really it's funny, and I think everybody can really relate to it. So Karla, what is MindBody Health?
Before we get into stress, I really do think it's nice to talk about mind-body health because people hear these terms today but think different things about it. One of the things that I really like to talk about in terms of mind and body is that they balance each other out. They work together. Actually, I say balance each other out, but really sometimes with stress, it's that they are not in balance, right? So the effect, mind-body health, pro-social health, is the effective balance of physical and psychological health so that they each work to support each other. Stress knocks that out of the park, and sometimes we get unequal effects.
So what exactly is stress? We talk about it, but what is it, Karla?
Stress, I don't think we need to define it for anyone here, right? We all are feeling stress in different ways.
We know when we're in it, that's for sure.
Right. Or maybe we can even say there's 100 definitions of stress. But really, to understand what stress is, for the purposes of our presentation, is we really want to talk about both physiological and psychological stress and how those two things really get out of balance at times, okay? So that response, a stress response in either one of those areas is responding to both internal things, how we're feeling in our body, how we're feeling in our mind, and external events, forces, and conditions. That stress that we're feeling makes changes in almost every system of our body.
That's amazing. Every system. Mm-hmm.
And that stress effect really changes how you feel and you behave.
Makes sense. So where does this come from, this stress? Is there an evolutionary purpose?
There is. If you think back to that Crudes clip, that tells about the caveman days. If you remember back to caveman days, or if you can think back to that, we used to have to survive, use stress to get our body to act. We either had to flee or we had to fight.
Right. So we needed that shot of adrenaline to hone our senses and to charge our muscles and to get us ready. Yeah.
That's right. And that still has some implications today. You can imagine preparing for a big work presentation,
right,
where you really need to put all that you have into it. For kids, tests at school, maybe even it's coming into a new peer group and trying to figure out, how do I act?
Right. Or sports. Just having a little extra something.
That's right. That physical part really helps with knowing that you're prepared. So as you can see, stress is normal up to a point, and it can even help for certain performance-related tasks.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, if we get accustomed to managing it, it actually makes us stronger.
That's right.
And more resilient, which we'll talk about more in the second part of this presentation, but it's good to really think about it that way.
That's right. Stress only becomes a problem, really, when we have points in our lives when it kind of overcomes our ability to really handle daily life tasks, and really starts to build up in our lives when we're not managing it effectively.
And at which point it has some more serious implications.
Absolutely. So you can see in this next slide the facts about stress. It's not even fun to read these things, is it?
Not. It's a little
yeah.
alarming.
So this is really stress's impact on our physical health. You can see it's linked to the 6 leading causes of death. You can see here on the slide, those are heart disease, cancer, accidents, cirrhosis of the liver, suicide, both physical and psychological health. Over 43% of all adults suffer adverse health effects of stress. What?
I know. That's pretty powerful. As is this next, 2/3 of all office visits to family physicians are due to stress-related symptoms.
And we certainly see that as psychologists. I would say the majority of people coming in have issues with stress in their lives.
Hands down, anxiety would be the number one referral concern.
Yes.
Has been my entire 7 years in this private practice.
Yeah. And what we know about that is that everyone has stress in their lives.
That's right.
Just sometimes you can benefit from having a little more support and help to manage those things.
That's right. Okay. So again, how are we defining this?
Yeah, let's go back. Let's think about how this really can be viewed to help us understand the impact that stress has.
Because the title of this slide is stress, but really what it really probably would more appropriately be named is ill-managed stress, poorly managed stress.
That's true,
yes.
Right? Because we talked about how stress can be beneficial to get us motivated.
Right.
So here, this is a kind of a layman's way to think about stress when we think about being stressed out, okay? So stress can be defined as overwhelming feelings of lack of control over our environment, not feeling like you have the ability to change things. Okay, what does that do? It influences both how we feel and behave. And again, like we reviewed earlier, it affects nearly every system of the body through those physiological and psychological changes.
Okay, so mind body, clearly there's an interaction there. What about how we interact with the outside world? The influence of stress on our relationships.
That's right.
Because this is interesting.
This is.
So, and this was part of our original presentation where we asked parents, raise your hand if you think your child is affected by your stress. Right? And actually we had a pretty insightful crowd because they all raised their hand.
Most parents did, didn't they?
Most parents did raise their hand. But when they actually did this study, most parents did not raise their hand. And in fact, it was really surprising how little parents thought they were doing such a great job, not bringing their stress home. But the kids, oh my gosh, kids see right through it, right?
That's right.
The vast majority of kids absolutely believed that their parents were stressed. And they knew based on their parents' tone of voice and how snappy they were, how quickly they were to react, how easily they could go with the flow or not.
Absolutely.
They picked up on all of those cues.
Yeah, and those parents and kids were kind of sitting together or nearby, and they were looking at each other, and the kids were saying, "Parent, we know when you're stressed out, right?"
Yeah,
Here are a lot of ways to see that.
Totally. So here's the actual statistics. 1/3 of children between the ages of 8 and 17 believe their parent has always or often worried or stressed out about things during the past month. 4 in 10 children say they feel sad when their parent is stressed, so they're impacted. 1/3 of children, 34%, say they know when their parent is worried or stressed out when they yell. Other signs recognized by children are arguing, complaining about their problems, and being too busy or not having enough time to spend with them.
Yeah, so kids are intuitive. The research tells us, like Gretchen had mentioned earlier, that parents don't realize that kids are as intuitive about their stress, about knowing that parents are stressed. Really, only about 70% of parents say that they think that their stress only has a slight impact on their kids. Yet really, as you can see from our experience and probably your own, kids know, and they know why with lots of different ways.
So then we flipped it. And we asked about how we wanted to know about how parents understood their child's stress. So we asked parents on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no stress, 10 being extreme stress, how many think your kid is under a 5? How many think between a 5 and a 7? And how many think between an 8 and a 10? I'd say the majority of parents identified under a 5.
Yes.
And then we flipped it again and we asked the kids, what's really true? And it was very interesting because it was, I think there were maybe 2 kids that identified as being under a 5.
That's right. Out of about 100 kids, right?
Yeah, it was a big group. And so most of them
probably had about a quarter that said they were between 5 and 7.
And a lot,
but majority identified that their stress as a child is between 8 and 10.
So that is a big deal. That's something we really need to pay attention to. So here's what research says. That was kind of our small group, but here's what research says. 1 in 5 children, 1 in 5, worry a lot or a great deal about things in their lives, but very few parents, only 8%, reported that their child is experiencing a great deal of stress. So this bore out. This turned out to be true in the group that we were doing.
That's right. Absolutely.
And so that's just good. If you're a parent of a child, it's good to be aware. Whatever they're telling you, chances are good. It's a lot more.
That's right. And actually, it really was helpful to know that both in that large group and what we see in our practice is that kids are able to voice this when asked.
Right.
When asked in a way that is not about giving information and not about trying to get into what they're hiding, but it's asked in a supportive, what can I do for you? How can we work together on this way?
An empathic way, where it's really about understanding what the child's experience is, and that's the motivation, is to understand the child's experience.
Right. Yeah. And the stress there, this slide kind of at the bottom talks about what we see in children with stress, and I think this was really borne out in what the kids reported, that they had difficulties falling asleep, staying asleep at night, they get headaches, they get stomach aches, that those physical health symptoms are often associated with their stress.
Very much so. On the adult side of things, what we know is that 20.9 million adults suffer from depressive illness at any given 1 year period. That's a whole lot of people.
That is.
And it is not something we talk about very much.
No.
I think people that experience depression, I think we're getting better, but we've got a ways to go in terms of just being able to talk openly about the reality that depression is really pretty prevalent. And look at anxiety, twice as prevalent.
Yes.
40 million American adults have an anxiety disorder.
Remember that stat that said that the majority of people go in, or no, I think it was almost 50% of adults have some kind of stress-related thing that they seek treatment for. Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to go into those physician's office to ask for help with a physical condition. But what we know is that mental health is very much impacted by stress.
Yes, absolutely. In terms of kids, what we know is that in a given lifetime, about 25% of 13 to 18-year-olds will have experienced some kind of a mental health disorder. Could be anxiety, could be depression. And so that's pretty significant.
It sure is.
And when you back it up even further, and look at the entire span, the study that they did where they looked, at any point in your educational career, and they opened it up to include things like attention and learning and things like and problems like that, the number was actually closer to 50%.
Wow. And what the same research says is not only is there a high rate of experiencing this, but that untreated children with these anxiety disorders are at a higher risk to perform poorly in school, to miss out on important social experiences, and to engage in risky behaviors like substance abuse.
That's right. And what we also know is that of the kids that need treatment, only about half get it.
Wow.
And that's what gets borne out. And so, but it's really interesting, right? Because you think about, parents' awareness of what their kids are going through, and this is part of the reason that we're doing this 3-part series, and why we're putting this information out there is because it's so helpful for people to know and understand how significant this stuff is, and that it is a thing. It's a natural thing. Because a lot of kids that come in to see me, they think they're the only ones, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're so far from being the only one. Like but they're not talking about it. Their peers aren't talking about it, and almost every child I work with that decides to open up to one of their close friends says, oh my gosh, you feel that way? I feel that way too.
That's right. I think that is so true. Before we move to the next slide where we're looking at symptoms of stress, I think it's good just to pause here and do what we did in our talk where we said, kids, adults, think to yourself, what symptoms do you notice that you relate to stress? That when you feel stressed out, how are you feeling? And just pause and think to yourself, how are you feeling, both in your mind and your body? And then let's take a look at the slide.
Mm-hmm. All right. So thinking. So here's some common ones: anger, depression, health palpitations. Could also include feeling overwhelmed, anxious, having mood swings, irritability, having a short temper, feeling run down and tired, headaches and body aches, tightness in your muscles, back and neck pain.
Is everyone raising their hand to every one of those, right? So
Like,
both physical
check.
and emotional, that feeling of overwhelmed, anxiety, being anxious about things, worried, being irritable, mood swings, those aches that just don't make you feel good every single day when you're having stress.
Yes.
All right.
So here's the question, right? So we have these things going on in the world, right, out in our environment, but we're feeling it in our body. How does that work? How does it go from being out there to in here, inside? How does stress get in? Well, there's only one way in, and it's the way that we're thinking about our situation. So this triangle, I draw this triangle probably 6 times a day. I draw it all the time because the way that we're thinking has a big influence on how we feel and what we do. Likewise, the feelings that we're bringing into a situation will influence our thinking about that situation. And our actions, what we do in response, will affect how we think and how we feel. So you've got 3 sets of bidirectional relationships here that are interacting with each other, and some of which we have control over, some of which we do not.
That's right.
So one of the fun things, it's a little challenging to do for people that are watching this, but let's just go with it. I asked the audience to, which of these 2 things do you think is easiest to change? Which do you think is hardest to change? And they were kind of mixed reviews. Mm-hmm. And so then we went and tested them. And I said, okay, let's test actions first, because most people kind of feel like actions are maybe on the easier side of things. Okay, so then I asked them, go ahead and clap your hands. Okay, so then everybody clapped their hands. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, is that easy, medium, or hard to do? Well, most people say, okay, that was pretty easy. I can make myself clap my hands, right? And then, okay, wiggle your body. Okay, so I don't know if wiggles. Easy, medium, or hard? And, people thought that was also pretty easy. Okay, so then we moved to thoughts. Let's see about thoughts. And I asked about maybe thinking about a nice summer day, right? And, take a moment and think about a summer day. Easy, medium, or hard, right?
Wait, can we pause this right now and just think about a nice summer day?
let's just stay there in that summer day. And most people felt that was pretty easy. Sometimes medium, but it's like, but how could you make your mind go there? Mm-hmm. Could you, even if you were like debating about the details you wanted to include in your nice summer day, could you make your mind go there? And most people felt like, yeah, they can make their mind go. In fact, everybody can make their mind go there.
So actions, easy. Thoughts, easy to medium.
Easy to medium.
Okay.
And then feelings. This is so fun to test out. Okay, are you guys all ready? Go ahead and feel mad right now. Right. And at that point, people start to chuckle a little bit, right? Because it's kind of absurd, right?
You can maybe look mad. Right. Can you feel mad?
Right. So I get these mad faces, but they're mad faces that are trying not to smirk, right? Because it feels so weird. Okay, but maybe it's just the mad feeling. So how about go ahead and feel scared right now then? Right? And again, it's just it doesn't work that way. Our feelings are different. We have some degree of control over what we do, and we have a degree of control over how we think. But our feelings aren't on a light switch. You cannot flip your worry on, and you can't flip it back off again, right? Oh, just calm down. Oh, okay, that's all I need to do, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't think of that. Right? It's like it just doesn't work that way. Feelings don't work that way. And it's important to understand that, because how often are you looking for the switch? How often are you in distress and you want to end now? And nothing's quote-unquote working because there's nothing that instantly turns it off. And then that's frustrating. And so this feeling it's like this other cycle that you get into where, it's not working. And mm-hmm. maybe you get into that even with your kids if they're having, some big emotional reaction and you're trying to help them calm down and nothing's instant. Nothing works instantly.
So these 3 points to our triangle: actions, thoughts, and feelings. Some are much easier to control than others, but they all influence each other.
And that's the good news. the good news is that you get to use your thinking and your actions to influence your feelings so that you enter into these stressful situations and your emotions don't have to overwhelm you.
Yeah, that sounds hopeful.
I love this. Okay.
This is a fun experiment.
This is a fun experiment. So everybody looking at the screen,
What are we seeing here, Gretchen?
I'm anticipating that people are seeing a reddish, pinkish kind of a swirl.
So we're trying an optical illusion, right?
That's right. And you probably
mind tricks.
And you probably see a green swirl and you probably see a blue swirl.
Okay.
Right? So you're thinking there's 3 different color swirls here, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Oh, but wait. If you look closely at where this bar intersects both the blue and the green, what you see is that the blue and the green are not 2 different colors at all.
That doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, I know it doesn't.
You kind of lean closer to get a better look, but
and you
really,
see, it's like, oh my gosh, that's true. But isn't that life sometimes that you are looking at a situation and you are adamant? No, there are 2 different colors. Those are 2 different colors. No, it is. And then it's not until you're confronted, right, with that absolute reality that they are actually the same color. It's really just the use of pink and orange that change your perception of the situation and make it seem different. And what I tell people that I work with is that our minds can actually be easily tricked. There's a whole show called Mind Games, I think. And it's all about illusions. It's all about these mind tricks.
Right.
I've got a book in my office that I thought kids love that book. Adults love that book. I love that book.
Yeah.
Because it shows how easily we can be tricked. And the reality is that our thoughts can trick us. And often do. These are mind tricks that happen, right? Oh no, it must be perfect.
Right.
It must be just so, or it's not gonna be okay. Right?
Yeah.
It'll end in disaster.
Thinking everything is a catastrophe.
Right.
Being pessimistic about those things that happen to you.
Right. Right. Shoulding. Right. Oh, I should do this. I should do that. She should do that. She should. Right. I have a colleague that says, "Don't should on yourself or anybody else." Right. Quit placing those unrealistic expectations on people.
Yes,
it's not fair. Right. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to them.
Assumptions.
Oh.
All of these ways that we have stress come into our body because we're assuming things are true or that others are doing things for a particular purpose.
That's exactly right. Yep. And so to get out of that cycle of being tricked by that kind of faulty thinking, that erroneous thinking, we can do this. Do you think most people, Karla, when they're stressed out, are they focusing on guesses or assumptions?
Right.
Or are they focusing on what's true?
Yeah, that's true, right? I think I'm almost always assuming. Right? Someone's doing something for a certain reason.
Right, or there's going to be a certain outcome.
Absolutely. And that does relate directly to stress, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That there's going to be a certain outcome. But what happens when you kind of refocus your attention back to what you just know to be true? Like you boil it down to what you absolutely know for a fact to be true. What happens to your stress? Does it stay the same? Does it improve? Does it get worse?
It's a way to use that thought to make it better, isn't it?
It is.
To feel more in control.
That's what most people feel, which is an interesting word because that's like the next thing, right? Because when people are stressed, Karla, do you think they're focused on the things that they have control over or the things that they cannot control?
We know that, don't we? It's always those things that you have no control over.
That's right. But how much energy we spend really working to control those things that we can't control.
That's right.
And I'm getting frustrated because we can't.
Mm-hmm. That's all those physical symptoms we feel of the tense back and the yes.
Right, trying to control it. And then what happens when you shift your attention back to what do you have, like what's in your sphere of influence? What do you get to control?
Right.
Does your anxiety feel better, worse, or does it stay the same? Usually, it feels better.
Absolutely.
Way better.
It decreases that stress.
And then I know people can relate to this too because what sometimes we do, we get so caught up in our head, so caught up in fretting, that even when there is a solvable problem, we don't actually get to the part where we solve the problem. Because we're caught up in the fretting. But it turns out when you actually start solving problems, you feel better.
That's right.
You feel better.
That's a good one to linger on. So this healthy thinking slide really talks about finding those, what are the facts? Mm-hmm. What's in my control? And let's find some solutions to that solvable problem.
To a solvable problem.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, are all problems solvable?
No, they are not, right? Remember us going back to talk about stress is everywhere, right?
There are some things that just are reality. And so do you keep, again, back up to the control side, do you keep trying to make it a solvable problem when it's not and try to control what you can't control, or do you accept that there are certain realities that are what they are?
Absolutely.
And you get to choose that. You get to choose whether you just accept the situation, that it is what it is, and you're going to have to, do what you need to do to cope and to manage being in that situation, because it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. So what are some ways that we can manage our stress, do you think, Gretchen?
Well, that's a good question. Here's what people generally are doing.
Yeah.
People, when they did this survey, about close to half of people felt like they were taking steps to reduce their stress. So about half spending time with family and friends, pray, listen to music, read, watch TV, all kinds of stress relieving activities. Ones that are particularly helpful, exercise. Exercise, and I know people know this. I mean, we think about it as being good for our body. What people don't often think about is how good it actually is for our emotional well-being. And yet, research is bearing that out time and time again, that moving our body turns out to do amazing things for our brain.
We're back to that mind-body connection, aren't we?
To that mind-body
so
connection.
Doing things with your physical body
That's
can
right.
affect your emotional well-being. We also know that the other thing is true, right? The more we can address some of our emotional well-being, not only with those connections we talked about previously, but with some other things that we list here under healthy behavior and lifestyle. Some of this resiliency that we're going to be talking about next month in our 3-part session. Meditation,
meditation
yoga,
is a favorite of yours. And
that's right.
So, I mean, I think people have a lot of different ideas about what meditation is and isn't. I mean, how do you define it, Karla?
Yeah. I think, meditation, you're right, does have a lot of connotation to a lot of people. Really, the term mindfulness is a great way to think about it. It's being mindful, being aware of what's around you, but without judgment. Just increasing your awareness.
Without judgment.
That's kind of the part that we need to.
Interesting. So what you're thinking doesn't have to be good or bad.
That's right. You're just noticing it.
Right. What you're feeling isn't necessarily good or bad.
Absolutely.
It just is.
It just is. And the more that you increase that ability to be aware, the more that you can start thinking about, I'm increasing all of these neural connections in my brain. I'm really understanding some things I can do. Breathing being a huge part of one, right? That we have others on the list here. Rest, spiritual activity, yoga, all of these things that you can use to develop coping strategies that allow you then to feel better and to create that healthy behavior and lifestyle.
And, here's a few more. Lifestyle kinds of things, that time away from electronics, our ever-present devices.
That's right.
But it's interesting. A worry-free zone is an interesting turn of phrase. But to me, it's like, just where can you go? What kind of space? Maybe it's even a mental space. It's not even a physical space, but maybe it's a mental space where you go and you just like are in your happy place, right? That you're just like able to give yourself that break.
Absolutely.
Where you let go of things, set down your baggage, and just rest.
That's right.
Right. Be in that place.
So you can see the rest we have on this list. If you want to go to the next slide, one of the things we did in our session that you can even do now at home is we just did a little bit of this. This breathing, this ability to get in a mindful body, to sit. If you're walking, you already are kind of mindful of your movement. If you're sitting, just kind of sitting up with a straight spine, with an ability to feel more in control of your muscles and to plant your feet on the floor, to create kind of that zone that you were just talking about. When you breathe in through your belly. Focus on those long, slow breaths. Doesn't mean you have to get all of that in and out.
I love that you use slow, right, and long. I like that word too. Because people will sometimes say, just take a deep breath, right? And then people, what do? They go,
right.
Okay, that is not relaxing.
No, it's not.
Oh.
But breathing really is the key to being able to mindfully Slow down to become aware and to kind of feed your brain. That's what I like to use for kids, to get all of that stress that's lodged in the alarm system in the the amygdala part of your brain that just gets stuck, and an alarm is going off when you're stressed. And to use your breath to move it all the way up to your frontal lobe, where you can really, your smart part of your brain, where you can start thinking, thinking brain. And so another way to do that just is to do some of that, we name it here as progressive muscle relaxation, but it's really just clenching and releasing muscles all the way through your body to give yourself this sense of that's tension, that's stress filled up. And what does it feel like to release it?
That's right. And what does it feel like to release it? It's right. You feel like teach your body to let go.
You do. Yes. It's your brain and body have muscles that you can train to handle some of these stressful conditions. This is a good, we're transitioning to the end here, but this is a good segue to just talk about what we're doing next, which is to focus on how do we incorporate some of these strategies and how do we think about resilience, knowing that our environment, our worlds are filled with stress.
That you aren't going to avoid stress, and actually working to avoid it is only going to stress you out.
That's right. That's right.
And so instead, kind of just reframing how you think about it. This is not about learning to avoid stress. This is learning about how to manage stress, how to strengthen your brain to handle it, to not get so worked up over small little things that in the bigger context of life really don't matter that much. And so we're excited to have that second in the series, to be able to talk more about that and to really hear from people what they're already doing that's working, and hopefully share some new ideas about how to incorporate this, so it's not like this new thing, this added thing that you have to do, but really how do you just make it part of your normal, integrate.
Absolutely. Yes. So please come back to our website, check out, we will be posting more about resilience. You could already see some of that in our blogs, but that we will look for some more. Either join us in our talks out in the community, Blossom Whole Family Therapy and Child Psychology, or check back here on the website for other audio clips.
Thanks for listening.